8 things you didn't know about 300 Blackout. And joined with me is Jim Cannon, who is
22LR Marksman on Instagram.
Follow him. All right, bullet point number 1 about 300 Blackout. One of the things is that there's a bunch of different barrel lengths in 300 Blackout. Obviously, 16 inches is pretty popular because of the whole,
Laws.
Yeah, laws.
The law thing.
If you're not familiar, 16-inch barrel is what is required to make a legal rifle. Anything less than that is considered a short barrel rifle, SBR, or you have to use a pistol designation. And there's some legalities on, like, you can't put a stock on those types of things. So 16 inch is pretty popular, but the actual cartridge was designed for around a 9-inch barrel ballistically.
Yep.
Feel free to talk more.
So I think that both calibers obviously have different barrel length options for different reasons. Not concealability, but like kind of maneuverability for 5.56, get around corners. But also a Blackout just doesn't really need the barrel. It's a heavier bullet, but it gets up to speed really fast because it's a lot less powder and it's a lot faster burning powder. So it just kind of gets up and goes, where a 223 is going so fast it needs some time to accelerate. So it is a slower, bullet, which doesn't need that runway. It's kind of like how like a 9mm, like a typical
I was actually going to compare it to 9mm.
The average barrel in 9mm is 3 or 4 inches probably, and so you just don't need that ramp up speed. It's just already going its top speed. Any more barrel than that, and you're just kind of causing some friction to happen.
Bullet point number 2. Muzzle and thread pitch.
Yeah.
So Blackout's pretty easy. If you've watched some of our other bullet point videos, where we've talked about 450 and 350, it's kind of specialized and definitely you want to be very careful with your muzzle device. Blackout, I've never seen one that isn't 5/8 by 24.
Agree.
And most of those are designed around a 300 caliber bullet, a 308.
Yep.
So you're pretty safe as long as it's 5/8 by 24 muzzle. You don't need to be too. I mean, you can have your preference.
Right.
You've shot Blackout more than probably anybody I know.
Yeah, I shot it for a long time. That was my first kind of NFA gun. I had an SBR and a suppressor at the same time around the Blackout. I learned
about that caliber from you.
Yeah, that was probably 2011 or 12 when I did that, and they're basically all 5/8. I mean, I'm sure there's exceptions to the rule, but the reason for that is just it's 30 caliber instead of instead of .223. So it's just a little bit more bigger hole in the barrel. So you need a little bit more meat on the bone where the threads are. So,
and obviously it's one of the most popular muzzle devices for a 300 Blackout is a suppressor or silencer for those who are just getting into the hobby and unaware of it. This is an extremely popular round to run suppressed, and we'll talk more about different types of ammunition a little bit later. But it is a very popular one. So one of the more popular muzzle devices are suppressor compatible muzzle devices that you can get for these. So bullet point number 3. I'm going to let Jim kind of take the lead on this one. He knows more about 300 Blackout than anybody I know, and there are so many different types of ammunition. Please take us to school on this one.
I'm sure that we could roll some B-roll on boxes of ammo that are factory, but the point of this bullet point is 30 caliber bullets, so 308 bullets they measure out to. There's a ton of offerings. There's a lot of 223 as well, but there's not a lot of like 350 Legend offerings. No. Partially it's a newer caliber, partially it's a way kind of odd bullet size for, especially an AR, but
very regional too.
It is, yeah. But 30 caliber, think of your 308. Every bullet in a 308 can work in this gun. Obviously not the cartridge, the projectile we're talking about. Yep. So with
that piece.
Yes, the part that leaves the gun forward, not sideways. There's bullet choices ranging from, I've heard of 90 grains, maybe there's some exceptions down below that, but up to, I've loaded 265 grains. The mainstream ones are going to be between 110 and 220.
So to compare that, your typical choices in here range from 55 grains, and that has nothing to do with powder. That's weight of the bullet. That's
in a 223.
Yeah, in a 223 or 5.56. 55 to 77, something like that.
Yeah.
And
even 62 is more common.
yeah,
but
62 is
that is a good window.
just giving
yeah.
the range.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this one you're saying 90 to 265.
Yeah, but I'll bracket that into mainstream factory ammo. Like on the shelf at your gun shop is going to be 110 to 220. That's a real common window.
But it's still like that's
huge.
Like 110 grain window.
So think about that. It's double to 4 times
Mm-hmm.
a bullet on a 223. So that's a lot of mass.
That's a lot more. That's a lot more weight
And
that's carrying.
And typically speaking, when you're on the light side, I'll say under 160, 70 grains, right around there. Under that, you're going to be supersonic, meaning over the speed of sound. And above that, you're going to be subsonic. So those heavy bullets, you can have this reverse roll where you're going slow, but you're heavy instead of going light and fast. So when you're light and fast, like 125 grain, it's a common kind of like a plinking, cheaper bullet.
Sure.
It's a Remington UMC, I believe. Those are going to go 2,200 feet per second ish. Don't quote me on that. I'm just going off memory. So kind of like an AK. It's very much like an AK. It's it's 1/100th of an inch different in bullet diameter actually. Basically the same speed. It's just it couldn't be more similar. And then on the heavy side, you're going to be a 220 might be going 1,000 to 1,050 feet per second. So you have these options, and the reason that we mentioned that suppressors are so common with this is because when you shoot either, it's great to suppress everything. I mean, why not, right?
Yeah.
But when you suppress a subsonic bullet, you think about how a gun works. There's an explosion happening in the chamber, and that's loud. We can agree.
Yeah, that is loud.
The suppressor or silencer will suppress that. It won't turn it off. It's just going to turn it down, right? So it's going to hopefully make it hearing safe.
That's why officially they're called suppressors and not silencers. Yeah. If you've never shot suppressed, it sounds nothing like the beep that you hear in the movies.
No, it's not the pew. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that the suppressor can only do what's going on here. It can't suppress the impact of the bullet or the sonic crack in the air. So the suppressor's going to take care of that noise. And you've heard a whip crack before. It's that pop. That's what a bullet does, but continuously instead of an instant, whip crack sound. So
and like the sound when it goes bang happens, in
here.
This area. The suppressor makes it quieter here, but doesn't make it quieter down there.
It's kind of a science, and it's complicated. But,
totally.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings up like this is not a novice round.
Yeah.
Like
let's just say that too.
You don't want to put like 300 Blackout should not be your first AR build. It should not be your first AR purchase. It shouldn't be your first firearm purchase. No. Like you definitely want to be into the hobby to do 300 Blackout. Sure, you can do a build, load up some supersonic rounds and use it. It's just an expensive plinking toy at that, which there's a bunch of other calibers that you could, 7.62 works great for that, 5.56 obviously works great with that. But there's a bunch of other things that fit that bill. It is not the most expensive ammo, but it's definitely not the cheapest.
Yeah.
It's not the easiest to find, especially with all the variants and stuff. It's definitely one that you like need to be like. I personally don't own a 300 Blackout just because I don't have reloading presses. Like I don't like.
Yeah.
I build them up here all the time. I go shoot them and then I sell them to other people. Bullet point number 4. So we talked about tuning your gun. If you're using a bolt gun, it's a little bit simpler. You don't need to tune it. But one of the things that's extremely popular to do with a 300 Blackout is to run it with an adjustable gas block. And part of the reason for that is if you're switching between supersonic and subsonic loads, your blowback pressure is going to vary dramatically.
Equal and opposite reaction, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you can explain that even more, like what it's like. Contrasting, the feel of it.
So, I guess rewind just a touch. AR-15s were built around a 223, 5.56.
Yes.
Right. And
this one, for those that don't know.
As you deviate away from that, we have to kind of put band-aids on things. And I say that not meaning like this is janky, but this is a real deal.
Or reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, but you're kind of just fixing, okay, there's a weakness here with this caliber, but let's fix it. And one of the ways to fix that is with an adjustable gas block. So think of it as a valve. It's kind of would it control that blowback or that gas pressure? So this is not actually meant to have that chain reaction of cycling with it not suppressed and subsonic. So if you think, I mean, honestly, there's no reason. I don't think there's any reason to have a subsonic unsuppressed Blackout because it's still fairly loud and it's just not as much energy. It's just like not quite, doesn't make sense. So supersonic unsuppressed, and in my opinion, suppressed subsonic. Those are the two reasons to have it. So you can go back and forth. And because you're going back and forth, there's a pretty big difference in bullet weight and pressure and all these things. So the gas block will tune the recoil, the pressure. It'll just kind of tune it up just a bit. And that'll basically give you a better experience overall and limit the wear and tear on the gun too.
Yeah, so definitely spend an extra few bucks, $25 to $100 to get an adjustable gas block.
And the $100 is super nice too.
Yeah. Bullet point number 5. To complement the adjustable gas block, either an adjustable buffer or a heavier buffer. It is a shorter gas system, so you are going to get a lot more recoil. There's less powder that's being burned before it comes up the gas port and starts going back and blowing back at you. So having that heavier buffer is just going to control the speed at the rate your bolt carrier group comes back. It's not going to come back quite so fast. It's going to be a lot smoother. Definitely less felt recoil. I don't know if it's actual less recoil, but less felt recoil.
Yeah, I think there's some maybe psychological thing going on there. Like I put a heavy buffer in, it feels better, right?
It's more comfortable.
Yeah. I think too, another reason for a heavy buffer is that cyclical action, it's the spark and the bullet going out and the expansion of the gases and the gas block and all these things happening just really fast, right? And what can happen too fast sometimes is that the lugs on the bolt can unlock and start pulling back when it's still under a lot of pressure. And that can do some damage to your brass, and it can actually be kind of dangerous too. That's kind of extreme. It could be dangerous, but odds are it's not. But a heavier buffer just kind of keeps that closed just a hair longer and lets that operation happen and then open. So it just seemed a little more kind of systematic, and you'll get a better operation.
The one thing that I've seen building of firearms compared to a hobby outside of that is building Jeeps. And just the correlation, the more you think about it, the more you realize this is way simpler than a Jeep. More reliable too.
Burn.
But hey, I'm a Jeep fan, but it's like I've owned a Jeep and it's not, it got me where I need to go, but it also had its share of problems. But building that Jeep, you're tuning your Jeep for a specific, this is a specialty caliber. And just like you have Jeeps for going to the sand dunes, you have Jeeps for rock crawling, you have Jeeps for trail riding. This is the same thing, but this is more niche. This is like your rock crawler. Is what it's designed for.
I'd argue it's actually kind of like a rock crawler / sand one because you need this adjustment.
To switch,
So you're going to deflate your tires on sand. You're going to inflate them on rocks, or maybe a sweet spot. So one of the beauties of Blackout is it can do this and this. And it's two very different things. In a way, it's very different. And that's the beauty of it, is it's kind of multi-purpose and you can just adjust it and do the other thing. So pretty cool.
Bullet point number 6. One of the unique things about 300 Blackout is that it's a specialty caliber that does not require a proprietary magazine.
Most of the time.
They do have proprietary magazines. And there's, I've surveyed a lot of people and everybody gave me a different answer, which a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I use it. I just use 26 rounds instead of 30 in PMags.
And every one of those people had a different lower and a different bolt and a different upper and a different barrel, different mag. So you're kind of stacking different companies' products on top of each other. And if they're all identical, great, they're going to work. But this company's might be just a teeny bit different, and stacking doesn't end up always perfect. So,
which is where your original analogy, you either have to reinvent the wheel or you're putting band-aids on the things that were so one of our employees here, he said he uses PMags but he only puts 26 rounds in it because he has misfeeds after 26.
Interesting.
Because this bullet stacks very differently than this bullet in the magazine, but it's designed to stack this bullet.
Yep.
And this one just happens to work. Right. And other people prefer the proprietary 300 Blackout magazine. Other people like, oh, I just don't use mag pulse and it's fine.
Yeah.
And so everybody, like, that's one of the things I realized in surveying people is everybody has a different opinion. And it's one of those things that's not a novice caliber. It's something you got to play with to see what works for you.
Yep.
And so, but it does not require a proprietary magazine in the AR platform. All right. Bullet point number 7. We're going to talk about, I'm going to let Jim talk about some of the uses because, again, he uses this more than anybody I know.
So I never served in the military. I never ever claimed to have done that, but I have heard, and this is facts. I've heard that special operations have used Blackout with the subsonic side of things for some special taking dudes out really quietly from
I've heard similar rumblings.
Yeah, so neither of us have served in the military, but we talk to people who have and who know things more than we do. That's one pretty cool use, I think. The other side of it, kind of similar side, hog hunting is super, super popular with it. There's other offerings, of course, since the Blackouts come out that are much more powerful.
Do you compete with this round?
Not really. I could, but...
You have?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I actually want to put on a competition that's the only parameters is center fire subsonic.
Oh, that'd be
anything.
That'd be really cool.
So like a bunch of suppressors probably show up, maybe some 9mm ARs, but anything subsonic and center fire.
ACP,
yeah.
Really good one.
So like, and it'd be a little bit of distance, so the pistol caliber may not be perfect, but I think a Blackout would be just perfect.
That'd be a fun call.
Yeah. So I'll give you a call when I do it.
All right.
But the hog hunting thing is super popular because it can be suppressed. I mean, again, a suppressor that's 30 caliber is very common, and it's not
it's extremely common
out there like a 50 or a 338 or something big. Or
niche.
Exactly.
So that's one of the things. Like we were talking about hits harder. It's the difference between getting hit with a Toyota Prius versus a
F-150.
Yeah, an F-150 or a bigger truck.
Yeah.
Like, there's more mass on the F-150, even if they're both traveling at 40 miles an hour. You have a vehicle that weighs twice as much or 4 times as much. The Mack truck. Like you're getting, the larger the vehicle, the speed is the same. It's going to hurt a lot more, and that's what this is. Like the bullet's traveling, at a certain speed, but there's more mass on it. So it's mass times velocity, and that's what gives you that kinetic energy.
And the velocity, it will be a hair lower on the Blackout, but it's not, half or a third. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's very violent. There might be a point, like we discussed in a previous video, where there's a point of diminishing return, like the 223 might continue that energy further out or something. But
sure,
it's just a kind of I actually say the short bus versus a Prius, because it's kind of bulbous and not very aerodynamic. It is aerodynamic, but not as aerodynamic. So it's just a different duck. It's kind of like, would you rather get hit by a short bus going 30 or a Prius going 40? Like, probably the Prius.
Like, you don't want to stand in front of either one of them.
Yeah, right.
But probably the Prius. You're probably going to fall on top of it.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought of another bullet point.
Let's talk.
So bullet point number 8.
Bonus.
Yeah, bonus bullet point. Which, this is our new journeyman in 300 Blackout. I didn't plug this. Check the website. This will be dropping very soon. But bolt carrier group.
Yeah.
This is also one of the unique things about 300 Blackout is the only thing really proprietary on it is the barrel. The magazine's not, the muzzle device isn't, and the bolt carrier group is the exact same as a 5.56. So, like the 350 Legend, if you have a 5.56 already, again, not building advice, but you can literally just drop a 300 Blackout upper on your AR-15 lower and put your bolt carrier group in, and you're ready to go.
Now, I might add a caution too. There might be a birdcage that's 223 or like 22 caliber specific. I don't know.
Well, it's a different thread pitch on that one.
That's true.
So
that's true.
It is a standard AR part, but this one is like,
good point.
This falls like, it's the same exact muzzle devices, your 7.62s, your 308s.
Yeah.
All your 350 Legend muzzle devices will work on 300 Blackout, but not all your 300 Blackout muzzle devices will work on 350 Legend.
Yep.
6.5 Grendel, 6mm arc, they're all the exact same thread pitch. So
Basically,
it's a standard.
Have a bigger hole than your bullet.
Yeah.
Rule of thumb.
Yeah. Have a bigger hole than your bullet. That's good. If you learn nothing else
TM.
from us, you learn have a bigger hole than your bullet. So
yeah. Awkward.
Yeah. Jim, thanks for joining us today. How can people find you?
The best place is 22LR Marksman on Instagram.
So go give him a follow. He posts all sorts of good gun stuff. Thanks for joining us. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, and click the link down below. We're always doing giveaways. We have a great email newsletter with deals dropping constantly, so definitely check that out. Thanks for tuning in. We'll check you out next time.